I'm Rusty Young, and this is Hell Yeah Detroit TV from the Mackinac Policy Conference on Mackinac Island. It's been said that, going for the job of mayor of Detroit is one of the hardest posts in the country. I'm assuming you probably heard the same thing as you were running for mayor, so if you could speak on that a little bit.
Well, mayors are like being in the emergency room in a war zone. Everything lands on your desk. When a murder occurs on the street, you hear about it immediately. If there's a fire, you got to be really hands-on. It's a little bit different from being a governor. You're high up, or if you're in the Senate. And in cities like America, Detroit, that are in distress, like New Orleans and Detroit that are in distress, there's a lot that needs to get done real fast, and you have limited resources and limited time. And so from that perspective, both of these cities that have been through really kind of cataclysmic problems, from New Orleans' perspective, Katrina, and of course from Detroit's perspective, bankruptcy, which hasn't happened in a long time. These are things that require an all-hands-on-deck effort, and the mayor has to be certainly in the center of that. If they're not leading it, they're kind of in the mud, as you will. So Mayor Duggan's got a really tough job going ahead of him. I know that the receiver is working through a lot of difficult problems, and of course the governor has too, and they've all got to figure out how to make it work. And that's what they're doing right now. But it looks like they have a lot of help, which is great.
Absolutely. And having been to New Orleans personally, love that place, by the way. It does seem that the city has, moved a little bit more forward than, say, Detroit. And we were wondering, for our audience, what are some of the things that New Orleans has done, is doing, that Detroit can follow?
Well, first of all, I don't know that it's a fair assessment to say that we've moved further, than Detroit faster, because Katrina happened in 2005, and so as much progress as we made and as wonderful as it's been, don't underestimate how long and how hard it is, and that really is about setting expectations for the people of Detroit. What the city's gone through right now is really traumatic, and you're doing it in the middle of a time when the country is changing its relationship that had previously existed between the federal, state, and local governments. The great thing about it is you're beginning to find, just through the hard work, a new way of finding new partners to help you deliver essential services to the city, and that just takes like a tree. It takes a long time to grow. I tell people in the community who yell at me all the time, you can yell at me all you want, but that's like putting a seed in the ground and yelling at it and expecting it to grow faster than it's going to grow. An oak tree is going to grow at the pace that it grows at. As long as you seed it correctly, you plant it right, and you nurture it, it will get to where you want it to be. There's a lot in that, that I just use, but it takes time and it takes effort. It seems to me what I really like about what I've seen here today is that all of the right people seem to be talking to each other, and there seems to be open communication and a plan that requires everybody to sacrifice. And that really, at the end of the day, when you're going to hurt, if everybody's hurting together and everybody's putting in fairly, right, that's the same thing that you need when you're growing really well. So it's that model that seems to work, and it seems like the metropolitan area and the state and the city have kind of are working towards figure that out. Even though not everybody completely agrees with it, it sounds like a consensus is beginning to develop.
And lastly, can you speak a little bit on why Detroit, New Orleans is a nationwide concern, not just an urban concern?
That's because cities are not just these local entities that live in isolation. They're places where American citizens live and they form. And they're also economic engines. Why would you throw away a piece of land and a group of people that actually could produce great things for the country? And we're all inextricably linked. That's not just a political philosophy, it's literally true.
Right.
So as I said earlier, when GM closed and shut its doors in bankruptcy, we lost 1,000 jobs in a city in Louisiana. So, that's factually just about as tough as you can get. And so Detroit's health is important to the people of the city of New Orleans for that reason. Consequently, the city of New Orleans is important to Detroit. We produce in Louisiana, right by New Orleans, 30% of the nation's oil and gas. If we shut down, all of a sudden you're not going to be driving anymore. And so this notion somehow that cities are just outliers, they're out there by themselves and living, is just completely wrong. And I think that we all have to nurture each other and help each other stand up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
Take care of yourself. Thank you.